Welcome back to Realigned and Unfiltered. Last week's episode finished in the middle of a conversation because we wanted to give space for everything we talked about to really resonate. And so if today's episode feels like we're dropping you straight into the middle of a conversation, well, it's because we are. We had so much to say that we decided to split it in two. This is where the next layer begins. We're picking up with the first chapter of the Four Agreements and exploring the domestication of the human being, the beliefs, rules, and unconscious agreements we inherit before we ever get a say. From a psychological, spiritual, and nervous system lens, we look at how these early programs shape our identities, habits, and the way we navigate the world. Think the collective unconscious, the dreaming nature of reality, and the very human tendency to project onto our own futures, all grounded in the simple truth that awakening begins with noticing the agreements we've been living inside of and realizing we can choose new ones. All right, let's dive back in.
This is Realigned and Unfiltered.
Together, we're peeling back the layers, exploring consciousness, and transforming life's messiness into meaning. I think maybe we could dive into the first chapter a little bit, the domestication of human, which totally reminds me of all the things that you teach about developing values and the rules and the laws. And yeah, maybe we dive a little bit into chapter 1 today. And then I think in future episodes, actually talk about the agreements that we make and the agreements that we could actually stick to and hold to and walk out in this life in a way of consciously choosing our dream.
I love that.
You had a couple of really good points from the first chapter. So why don't we dig into the first chapter and explore?
Okay. Yeah. So the first chapter, domestication and the dream of the planet. This one, it's such a good book. I mean, again, every chapter can be broken down here in this podcast. So for the dreaming part of being human, Don Miguel, he begins by saying that humans are always dreaming, even when we're awake. And when you really think about it, you could be like, oh, yeah, because like, we go to sleep, we dream. And as we wake up, our mind is still going. Our imagination is still working. Things are still like flowing. And the only difference is that our waking dream, it feels more stable.
Because it has linear time and
Right.
finite experience. I can touch the things and I'm aware of the time, which is funny because time only exists here on this planet in this way.
I know. And to your point too about that collective consciousness, right? So, and when we wake up, right, we've agreed, even if we can't comprehend it to some level, we've agreed upon this collective experience, this collective consciousness that we
Absolutely.
are part of.
Carl Jung and the collective unconscious or the collective
Okay.
consciousness. And that is something that we talk about a little bit when we talk about common humanity and mindful self-compassion. But yeah, as a whole, we're humans having this human experience, and then we're pockets of humans having pockets of human experiences, like women having the feminine experience, or so many. The warrior's experience is a different collective, and we all exist in all these different collectives. And so, yeah, the dream, in another word, in the Carl Jung world, is the collective.
Yeah, yeah. And then just to bring in a little bit of NLP here, thinking about also as we're having this waking dream, using our imagination, using our minds to experience reality, our brains don't take in truth or fact. The language is spoken through representations, internal representations, such as like the pictures, the sounds, and feelings that we hold on to. And those things that we filter through, that's what makes up our living dream, the waking dream that we walk through every day. And then the brain, you can think of the brain as like the simulation machine, right? It's the hardware. It doesn't perceive reality directly, but it builds upon those internal models that we've filtered through our sensory inputs, all the inputs that we've had, all the programming and the filterings that we have through our values, our beliefs, our decisions that we've made in the past, all these things. And and then from the neuroscience perspective, it also goes into, now since I've filter in this waking life, I filter reality this way. Our
Hmm.
brain then uses something called predictive coding. The brain predicts what's happening and it fills in gaps using our memory. So then within our conscious, we are dreaming reality, if you want to
Hmm.
think
Yeah.
about it like
Yeah.
that. Like your imagination is not just fantasy. I explained this to my 6-year old because I love, children are so amazing. You could just talk to them. You're like, oh my God, his imagination is just wow. And I'm like, that's fun. And your imagination is not there for no reason. Your imagination is not just fantasy, it's that creative interface, right, between energy and matter. Think about it like this. I like this example a lot. So think about how you could imagine an argument before it even happens,
Yeah.
right? And then and then suddenly your body feels completely stressed before it's even real. I mean, this is so funny because I know so many women who are married can probably relate to this, where you've had a dream of your husband cheating on you in your
Oh
dream.
gosh.
And you wake up really pissed off, like as if it's actually happened. You've you've gotten all these emotions and stuff going on, and then you're pissed off at your husband. He's like, "What's going on?" You've imagined all these things. In this case, it was in the dream state, but then you brought it into this waking state. You've chosen to keep it going. So now, what's the distinction between when you were asleep and you're awake? It's
Yeah.
carried on throughout. You're dreaming, but now you're awake in the dream. And so it's proof that your imagination, it's also a physiological event. It's not just something that's mental, that's going on only in your mind.
Well, things go on in our mind translate in our bodies, right? Or sometimes
Right.
things that our body is perceiving then translate in our mind. So when my body
Mhm.
perceives danger, my nervous system goes into fight or flight mode, right? My nervous system
Yeah.
gets ready to react. And then my brain, if it has time, will start kind of creating all of these possibilities of things that I might need to react to. So
Yeah.
my body sensed danger and my brain went like, it could be blah, 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 blah. I talk
Mhm.
about cognitive distortions. That's a thing we talk about a lot in psychology, cognitive
Mhm.
distortions. There's a nice big list of them. I'd love to do an episode on them one day. But many of the cognitive distortions that humans love to play with are things like mind reading, predicting the future, catastrophizing. I think a lot of the time when a client of mine will be telling me about mm, some version of a future experience that they're kind of stressing about, I will listen, and then I will say, and I wonder if you could refer back to our list of cognitive distortions and tell me which of these may you be employing. And they're like, all of them. But I think
Yeah.
it's a great thing to realize that the human mind does have these habits and these protective habits even, if I can comprehend what that person is thinking or what that person is going to say, then I can prepare for how to react. But what's happening is you're creating a reality that isn't real. You're
Right.
creating a story and turning and your body is having a reaction to a thing that hasn't happened. And
Yeah.
what if you predict he's going to be so angry and he's going to do this and he's going to do that and he's going to think this, and you're already injured. You're already injured by the future that you've predicted, and instead he comes in and he's warm and he's kind and he's thoughtful, he's apologetic. Well, then I have to reconfigure the whole thing that
Right.
you just lived a really scary and hard and difficult future without it ever happening.
Right.
So this is this whole
Exactly.
thing about staying in the present moment too, right? With our conversation about mindfulness, being intentional about staying in the present moment allows you to react to things as they happen instead of creating a whole future that hasn't happened.
Yeah. At
Mhm.
least in the negative context, right? Because what we focus on, that then to your point, it becomes amplified, and where we focus that our consciousness. This goes back to Hebb's law, where your attention goes, energy
Yeah.
flows. And the neuroning firing, it follows, right? Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together, they wire together. So the more we focus on the thought or image, the more, again, the neural circuits strengthen. We can use this. I mean, I know you use this and I use this too, like visualization. We use that for the what we do want to create. But
Yeah,
if
yeah.
we're and if we're entertaining the things that we don't want to, we're gonna keep seeing that more and more in our life.
Right, because
So
the RAS is gonna keep saying, "Oh, okay,
mm,
are we focused on stress things? Okay, well, then let's bring stress things." Also, it's interesting because we do affect one another, right? So
yeah.
perhaps so and so comes home and he's had his day and I've had mine, but I've also created a whole bunch of anxiety and tension and upset. He comes
Mhm,
in and feels my nervous system. Nervous systems sync. I don't know if people realize that, but they sync, kind of like
mhm.
uteruses and periods, right? When we
Oh,
spend time together, we sync up with one another. Well, if I have a really anxious nervous system and you come
mhm.
in and you're already kind of primed for like, whatever, because the world's been worlding out there. Um, you come in and you realize, whoa, something doesn't feel safe. Your neuroception is noticing that my nervous system is ready for go time. Like,
Mhm.
I'm about to fight. I'm about to throw down, or I'm really
Right.
scared. So we sync up together and kind of scare together. And this is something about those neurons, or even the hologram. What he's seeing in me is then reflecting back in him this thing. And so then the
Mhm.
whole thing gets blown out of proportion and then there's a big eruption. Versus what if I'm focusing on staying in the moment and staying present and staying in my peace? And
Right.
he comes
Right.
in and the world's been whirling out there and he's been having a day and he comes in and he feels and senses my peace.
Mhm.
Does it not invite him into, you've just come through a door and you're welcome to sync up to my peace?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then our nervous systems can go into rest and restore with one another, and we can
Mhm.
actually have a real conversation, even if it has to be a hard one. We can have a real conversation that is fully using our prefrontal cortex, that is
Mhm.
fully using our parasympathetic nervous system where we find calm and we're able to communicate with love, with hope, with wonder. Isn't that the way that we would want to co-create this
Yes.
dream experience with those that we live with and ourselves?
Yeah.
I think I might be
Exactly.
going a little bit off topic here, but this is what's flowing and we're unfiltered
No.
today.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it's just when you to your point, like when you start imagining what could go wrong, your nervous system prepares for what could go wrong, for that danger
Mhm.
or whatnot. When
Mhm.
you imagine what could go right, it releases that dopamine and the chemistry of trust, and your body doesn't know the difference. It just follows the image. What you are,
Uh-huh.
again,
Mhm,
um
and if you can't imagine, if you really feel like the only option I have is fear, stay as focused in the present as you can.
I yes, that is so great, Carly. I love that. I use this so much because sometimes, when I doing something, I get this thought. I'm like, I first is the awareness, right? Like I'm having this thought, and I was like, I don't like this thought, and I can't seem to get away from it. I just
Mhm.
focus on exactly what I'm doing. Like if I'm washing dishes, I just literally start naming what it is that I'm doing. Like
Yeah.
that really helps me stay present. Like this
Mhm.
plate is dirty, and look at this egg here that's stuck or whatever. I just start naming exactly what's going on in the present moment that brings my conscious awareness to something. I think that is huge to what you said is being present.
Actually, I could share a little tip that kind of just goes along with that people may like to take. Some people may have heard this before if you've been in any form of counseling for anxiety. But one of the greatest ways to allow yourself to anchor in the present moment is to use your five senses. And so, what I get people to do all the time, I call it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Mm,
So,
yeah, I
you
love
look at
that.
your hand and you say, okay, what are five things that I can see? And you look
Mm,
around the room or you look around wherever you are and you name those five things. Okay,
yeah.
great. Now, what are four things that I can touch? I can touch
Mm,
this microphone, I can touch this mug, and you kind of ground in and root into what does it feel like as I touch these things? Okay, now
mm,
what are three things that I can hear? I'm gonna get really quiet. I'm gonna use my mind. I'm gonna listen. I can hear a bird. I can hear the fan. I can hear the sound of my own breathing, right? Whatever it is that you can hear. What are two things that I can smell? I can smell the fresh air. I can smell the perfume that I'm wearing, whatever it
Mhm.
is, two things that you can smell, and then one thing that you can taste. Okay, well, I can take a sip of my tea. Suddenly, what have I done? You can feel that my breathing has changed. You can feel that
Right.
my heart rate has changed. What I have done is I have paid attention to the present moment on purpose with all five of my senses. And my mind has stopped running away from me because I'm using it and I'm connecting it with my body. And suddenly there's calm. And I thought I would share that here because it's fun to walk away with tips sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it just goes really well with, how Reese talks about, like, the domestication of humans, where he talks about birth and how we're trained through this reward and punishment, and so since we're programmed this way from birth, we sometimes are having these automatic thoughts. We're having these automatic reactions, but then there comes a moment that you are conscious of what's going on, and then you don't know what to do. That practice that Carly just said is perfect. I'm realizing I'm acting out of programming. I'm realize I'm behaving out of this programming, but I have the opportunity to kind of disrupt the pattern. Let me, disrupt the pattern real quick, get into the present moment
Mhm.
and continue
Mhm.
with the conscious co-creation of it all.
There's a quote in the book that says, "When you awaken, you see that you can create your own dream. You can rewrite your story." And that goes as the big whole, like I've awakened to this whole thing, or it can go into like I've awakened in this moment by realization that I am actually projecting into the future stress and projecting myself into a future that doesn't exist yet. Let me walk it back. Let me wake up. And maybe the first thing that I do is I anchor back into my body, my precious, precious body with its five little senses. I anchor in here and I allow myself to realize I do have choice in how I react. I do have choice. Just because I was punished as a child to believe a
Right.
certain thing, or just because I was rewarded as a child to
Right.
believe a
Right.
certain thing,
Right.
doesn't mean that is how I have to continue. I
Yeah.
can actually realize that I was domesticated. The wild, intuitive, brilliant starlight that I am was domesticated as a child through reward and punishment because that is how it is. We don't have to blame anybody for that. That is just how things go. But I have now awakened to the fact that there is choice. I have choice, and I have my wild, intuitive, creative self that is made of starlight, and
Mhm.
I can sink into this moment with my five senses.
Yeah.
I can choose, how do I want to react? How do I
Right.
want to behave? How do
Yeah.
I want to speak to myself?
Right.
What a
Yeah.
powerful opportunity to reclaim your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just also just so powerful to be in the realization of that most of this living dream that we are experiencing is the domestication of that he talks about, right? The programming, the outside dream that our parents, our culture, our religion, our school systems all gave to us, that
Mhm.
that at some point as we're continuing to live and we grow up, it becomes the inside dream. It becomes our identity. It becomes our
Yeah.
self-concept,
Yeah.
right? And then we start, this awakening process as we're born and we become more aware of everything to what we've been programmed to. We learn that those programs are not who we are, but
Yeah.
what I've been told to be, right?
Yeah, or to sort of tease the concept of the agreements, those are agreements that I have
Yeah,
made. I
yeah,
have agreed to be the good girl. I have agreed to be the responsible one. I have agreed to be intelligent based on how the world sees intelligence. I have agreed to be
Mhm.
bad with money. I have agreed to be a coffee drinker. I have agreed to whatever it is. I have made all of these agreements with those who nurtured me,
Yeah.
whether it be parents, friends, society, religion, politics, country, whatever. I have made agreements to be a certain way, and then I have taken on that identity and called it mine.
Yeah.
And it is okay, and it is allowed to stop, to say, "Hold the phone. How did I get here? And is it what I want?" And it is an incredible process, the process of individuation from Carl Jung's perspective. The process of individuation is maybe that's not mine.
Mhm.
Maybe I don't want that. And so I'm going to become more and more my own agreements.
Right. Yeah. And what you're talking about here too is also it touches on what he talks about in the book called the Book of Law, where
Mhm.
it's pretty much our belief systems. But as we're going through this awakening process and we're starting to question and I can change it, it could feel very again uncomfortable. It makes us feel like I'm doing something wrong
Well,
because
Tia is freaking out, right? Tia amygdala
right.
is not having it.
Yeah, because of the belief system we have. Our belief systems are what we're convicted with as truth,
Mhm.
right? So then we're working against that and it feels very wrong to some
Mhm.
level.
Mhm.
It gives like, oh, I'm not going to the natural order of what I've been programmed with. And he talks about like the belief system is like a book of law that rules our mind. Without question, whatever is in the book of law is our truth. And we base all our judgments according to the book and law, even if these judgments go against our own inner nature. Even
Mm.
moral laws like the Ten Commandments are programmed into our mind in the process of domestication. One by one, all these agreements go into the book of law, and these agreements rule over our dream. They rule our
Wow.
dream.
Yeah.
And so I think collections of rules and beliefs we've accepted as truth becomes that the book of law for us, right? And again,
Yeah.
even if those rules to some at some level at some point in your life, those rules can be wrong or they can be harmful, they still make us feel safe because of it gives us that security, that illusion of, but this is what I know, this is truth, you
Mhm.
know? And so
Mhm.
questioning your belief system can be very disorienting. We can train our minds to accept a new way of thinking.
Mhm.
Beliefs are energetic. I like this, that beliefs are energetic agreements. We don't just think them, we vibrate them. So the stronger the emotional charge behind a belief system, the tighter the hold is on our nervous system.
Yeah.
And I think that's why also awareness alone isn't enough. I think awareness, being aware of something is huge. It's a huge first step, but alone, it's not enough. We have to renegotiate the agreement that we
Right,
have.
absolutely. Awareness is one thing. It's when we bring what's in the unconscious up into the or the subconscious into the conscious. Okay, now I have awareness. Awareness is the first step. I am
Right.
aware. Now I realize with my awareness that I have choice. I still
Hmm.
have to make choice, right? So I still have to actually make those choices. And sometimes this is when we bring in something like in what I do, reparenting. We do some
Yeah.
reparenting. We go to the inner child in us that's like, no, 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 no. This is how we have to do it. And we have to do it like
Yeah.
this because this is how we get safety. This is how we get
Hmm.
connection. This is how I behave in order to receive connection and safety and my pat on the head that I need so that I can survive. And we
Right.
have to go down to that little one and say, that is how you had to survive.
Yeah.
And that is what you learned. And now I
Hmm.
want you to realize, look at me and realize I'm
Mm.
I'm you and I'm 40 years old and I've
Mm.
managed this life this long and this is what I've done and this is what I've become. Do you want to come with me into the
Yeah.
present? Because we
Mm.
don't have to live from the past anymore. We get to live in
Yeah.
the present where I'm in charge and I'm very capable.
Right.
Come watch me make this choice and know that it's safe.
Yeah.
And that's that reparenting thing that we do
Yeah.
as we connect with the inner versions of us that were programmed for safety in a certain way and programmed for
Yeah.
connection in a certain way. And it feels life or death because for them it was life or death. But for
Right. Yeah.
you, now perhaps it's not.
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
part of you that makes you feel like it would be impossible to do that thing maybe just needs to be brought up into the present.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this on I think I've seen it on some social media where people are posting, "I'm not doing this for me," and then the next picture is they show a picture of themselves as a baby or a little girl. I'm doing this
Yeah.
for her. And I was like, it's
Mhm.
such a that inner work, that child work is, woo, powerful.
I really
Um,
like the
yeah,
concept of being that person that the younger you needed. I actually
right.
remember being in a point in time in my life when I really needed somebody to be non-judgmental towards me. I really needed somebody to just like be there with me and be like, "You know what? It's just a hard moment. Like have your hard moment. I'll be right here." I felt like I was being quite attacked by like you're doing it wrong. You're disappointing all of us. I felt like such a failure. And I remember saying that one day I'm going to be for teen girls what I'm not getting right now. And that is exactly what I did. And I think it, even now as a 40-year-old woman, like, gosh, what do I wish I had now? And let me
Yeah,
become that.
you're right, right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, Reese talks about with, just awakening from the dream. He's talking about stepping out of that automatic programming and
Mhm.
then reclaiming being the author, right? Reclaiming being the co-creator.
Yeah.
And then, Carly provides such amazing tools with understanding how self-compassion, the foundation really of making this all work. And then I teach the NLP that gives us tools to recode the language of the mind. Again, neuroscience shows us that our attention, our imagination, they literally sculpt the brain. I think this is just like if people could really understand like what you're thinking all the time, what you're feeling together, they sculpt your brain. They sculpt how you are thinking every day. Really try to just think and grasp that and really take it to heart. And then because from a consciousness perspective too, it reminds us that this whole dreamer that we're talking about, the awareness even behind the dream, what we're talking about, it's gives us the ability and the freedom to dream something new. I think that's like the biggest thing we could take away from this whole conversation. And before we actually in further episodes explore the four agreements themselves, this is just like
This is just
notice.
recognizing how many agreements we have agreed
Oh,
to, right? And
yeah.
so what if we got really unfiltered
Hmm.
about recognizing the agreements we've agreed to? What
Yeah.
if you just sat down right now with whatever knowledge you have of the book or not, or just from this conversation and just wrote down like, what have I agreed to? How
Yeah.
how have I agreed to behave? How have I agreed to walk through this world? How I've agreed to see this world?
Yeah.
And
Right.
you know what? Maybe you want to hang on to some of those, and that's okay.
Hmm.
You can consciously decide that is something that I want to hang on to. That's an agreement that I like. What if you just got really raw and really
Yeah.
unfiltered and really honest about what have I agreed to? What
Right.
programming have I agreed to? And just start with that awareness piece. The awareness
Yes.
piece. We can't escape the dream of the planet.
Yeah.
We can't.
Right.
We're here. We're here. We're
Yes.
having it. We're in
Yes.
it. We are
Yeah.
having it. So, what we can do is we can wake up inside of it. We can
Yeah.
choose to become conscious dreamers,
Yeah.
lucid dreaming, let's say. We
Mhm.
don't want to
Yeah.
burn the dream down. We're not here to
Mhm.
awaken and burn the dream down. We're here to awaken and realize we're in it and
Yeah.
then become conscious about how we choose to behave in it. I don't have to hold the opposite to that person. I don't have to exist in duality. I don't have
Mhm.
to. I really don't
Yeah.
have to. I can watch the right and the left and just hold awareness for it all.
Right.
I don't have
Right.
to align myself with anything except for what I choose, what I agree to.
Mhm.
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 I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and our nervous system is a big part of this, our spirit is a big part of
Oh,
this,
yeah.
how we talk to ourselves is a big part of this, so this is, uh this is all part of the realigning, isn't it?
It is. It is. You know, we can choose to become conscious dreamers, right?
Mhm.
And create the life that honors our truth. Again, there's so many esoteric and bigger questions we could ask. We don't have the answers to all of those questions. So let's
None of
focus
them.
on what we can, and also train our nervous system to accept the life that we want, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's what we really are working here is realigning ourselves with that truth. It's not escaping this world.
Nope.
It's not. We're
Nope.
here, like we're here. But let's remember our divinity, what we
Uh-huh.
come with through with source, with God.
What's our
That isn't
source
all.
code?
It's our source, right? And remember that what we bring to this earth as part of this experience and build upon that to what we want to experience in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think this is a really good starter conversation. I mean, it
Yeah.
certainly went places. I think that this is a really cool concept for us, is like bringing in these things that we study, that we teach, that we do while talking about this Toltec wisdom, this ancient wisdom that isn't a religious wisdom,
Mhm. Mhm.
but it certainly acknowledges God in the process of creation, or
Yeah.
source in the process of creation, and who we are as a part of that. And I just think that that's a really cool way of bringing some spirit into the conversation of mind and body that we have so much of. What about
Yeah.
spirit? I think in the next few episodes, we'll actually break down the 4 agreements that we can use as a bit of a map for consciously living in the dream.
Yes. I love that.
Well, if you enjoyed this far reaching conversation based sort of kind of on a part of a book, and you might be interested in reading a book with us, Diana and I have been playing around with the idea of starting a book club. So shout us out in the comments or send us an email at realignedpod@gmail.com, because we would love to start a book club with people who are awakening in the dream and who would like to explore stuff together and have these conversations together, because we know we're not here doing this alone.